Hey future Lisa, I'm going to explain real quick why I'm making this video. As of right now, I really want a chinchilla as a pet, and I've done some pretty good hard research in the last few days, and as things go, I or you or us, we tend to forget things quickly, and by the time you get a chinchilla after like convincing parents and stuff like that, it might be like a year or two from now. So you might have forgotten a lot of this stuff, and instead of going back and trying to find all of this information again, I'm just going to create a series of chinchilla care for you. Now, this is not to say that you don't need to keep on doing your homework and stuff, because there's always new information out there to be found, and there's always new stuff to be learned, but like learning is accumulative, and you don't, yeah, so this is just something to go off of, because I've got most of the key points here. So originally this was going to be like one 10-minute video thing, but then I realized how much I would have to jam pack into 10 minutes. So instead I'm going to be splitting them into different sections talking about different aspects of chinchilla care. This one is going to be about habitats for chinchillas. For chinchillas, they originate from the Andes Mountains. The different breeds basically differentiate between like what elevation of the Andes Mountains they habitat, but bottom line is the Andes Mountains are cold, so hence the chinchillas have developed really dense fur, and chinchillas are unable to sweat. So as for their habitat, their environment temperature needs to be pretty low, preferably around the 60s. They can survive in temperatures up to like 0 degrees Fahrenheit, but anything above 75 degrees Fahrenheit is too hot for chinchillas, and chinchillas can easily get heat stroke, and I will talk about how to take care of that in another video. But temperatures under 75 degrees Fahrenheit, preferably around 65 degrees Fahrenheit-ish. Now, the next thing about their habitat is their cage. Now, again, I've done some research, I've read around a bit, I've watched some YouTube videos, I've been on some chinchilla forums, and it seems like the main two cages that are recommended are the Midwest Critter Nation cage and the Fairy Nation cage. Both of them double units, because the single unit ones are just not big enough. Chinchillas do need quite a big cage, just like guinea pigs and hamsters, and most of the cages they sell in pet stores are just not big enough. And in the case of chinchillas, big doesn't necessarily mean big as in wide or long. Big means tall, because chinchillas are animals that like to jump around a lot, which is another reason why ledges are more preferred than ramps or tunnels for chinchillas. I mean, it could be personal preference, but anyways, back to the caging. Make sure that you limit the amount of plastic parts on the cage, because the chinchillas will tear it up. Their teeth, like most rodents, grow continuously throughout their lifetime, about 2 to 3 inches per year, so they keep on chewing at stuff, and they could ingest the plastic, and that could be pretty harmful for chinchillas. So make sure that your cage is all metal, and as for the metal, make sure to get safe metals. Metals such as aluminum, gold or silver plated, and stainless steel, which is the most recommended, are considered safe metals for caging and toys and other stuff. But avoid copper, brass, nickel plating, it's toxic if ingested, and zinc, which is very, very common. So avoid those 4 metals and you should be okay. But just try to stick to stainless steel, because it just works and it's common and it's safe. So I think that's, oh yeah, also for the caging, make sure that you get a solid bottom cage, not a wire bottom. If chinchillas are constantly on their feet sitting on wire bottom cages, they can develop a condition called bumblefoot, which I'm sure you remember from your guinea pig days. It's a condition where their feet just get all cut up and bruised, and abscesses can form, and it's very painful for the chinchilla, and infections can set in, and it's gross, it's bad, it's painful. Just avoid it altogether by getting a solid bottom cage. Also, regarding their habitat, bedding is a thing you have to consider. Like guinea pigs, I recommend fleece for chinchillas because I just think fabric is easier, it looks nicer, it's a lot less messy, and just regarding fabrics itself, I think the only one I would recommend is fleece because fleece is the only fabric that I know of that won't pill or fray at the edges, so your chinchillas can't ingest any of the fabric and hence no harm. Harmless fleece. And the fleece is also special because it wicks the moisture from the surface. So for example, for bedding, if you have fleece on top and like newspapers or towels underneath, all the urine is like wicked from the surface, so your chinchillas have like a soft and dry living area, and the towels and the newspaper underneath is what soaks up the moisture. But in addition to fleece, you might also want something for like a litter box area. I recommend Carefresh, even though it is a bit too dusty for some people. Yesterday's News is also good. It's really recommended. I haven't tried it yet. It's recycled newspaper pellets. I'm just sort of wondering how they differentiate the newspaper pellets and their food, because it looks exactly the same. They're both pellets. But yeah, I don't know. Supposedly it's good because when chinchillas urinate on the pellets don't crumble and fall apart and it doesn't get messy. It just becomes like heavier and harder and it sinks to the bottom, so you can just like scoop it out like a cat litter box. So that's why I recommend Yesterday's News. Let's see what else is okay. Any type of paper pellets. Shredded paper is also okay, although it doesn't have the odor control that's common in commercially made beddings. The things to, oh wait, aspen wood shavings are also okay. The wood shavings to avoid, though, is mostly cedar and pine. Now, there are two main types of pine. There's kiln-dried and there's fresh-dried pine. If it doesn't specify, it's probably fresh-dried pine. Stay away from that. That and cedar, when urinated on, releases toxins that can really screw up your chinchilla's respiratory system, and if ingested, it could kill them, because it just messes with their respiratory system and their liver and their digestive system, and it can cause an impaction, and it's just really bad. So yeah, and the reason I just wouldn't recommend litter for the entire cage, because it does get very messy, because chinchillas are animals that like to jump around, and that means that the loose bedding will get kicked out of the cage, so you'll have to clean up around the cage in addition to inside the cage. And also it's just the cost, because chinchillas do need quite a big cage. If you want to line the entire bottom with loose bedding, the cost can add up, and it's actually quite expensive if you want to, you know, change the bedding every week. So again, for bedding, fleece. And also regarding the caging, make sure that the cage bars are no more than 1 inch big, which is the size of the cage bars facing on the Ferret Nation cage. You might need smaller ones for kits, which are basically chinchilla infants or chinchilla babies. I think that's so cute. Their name is Kits. Okay, but yeah, so no bigger than 1 inch, and just a little overview about their habitat again. Make sure temperature is around 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Make sure your cages are tall. Make sure your cage bars are no bigger than 1 inch spaced. Make sure your cage is made of safe metals, no plastic, and appropriate bedding. I think that's it for this video. Everything else I'm probably going to talk about in toys and exercise, regarding like exercise wheels and hidey houses and like ledges and stuff like that, and ramps. Why ledges are better than ramps. Yeah, I think that's it for chinchilla habitats. Stay tuned for the next video. This one was around 10 minutes long. I'm going to aim to keep each video around 10 minutes long, although everything else might end up shorter because this one did include the intro and my little explanation here about what this whole series is about. And yeah, I'm gonna go get packing before I make the next video. Bye!